G2 managing to maintain some real fan popularity still, 88% of the vote.
Sorry, mate, I'm just like getting the skank on there to that little drop that's going on.
Des is just DJing at the side of me whilst I'm trying to talk about the social.
The funniest thing was, I had a chat with one of the organisers yesterday, and I said to him, we were talking about music, so I think he saw what I was listening to on Spotify or whatever. And I said, I heard that kind of like, the new music that you've got in the game flight, it's really cool. He's like, yeah, we worked with a drill composer from the UK. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, no way. So it's a remix of last year's theme, so I'm just loving the music. I'm loving everything. The games have been great, music's great, everything's great. Let's get into it. NOMAD, the first band coming out from G2. On the other side, it was the Habana to take things away to begin with. And I wonder if that's sort of a leaning because of the changes that came through to Ace, where he's now lost his smokes, instead has got the Claymore. They know that G2 like to run the Ace. So you're sort of trying to shoehorn them here into playing on something like the Thermite, which is more prone, I guess you could say, to being impact tricked or denied. It just makes things a little more risky for the attackers to play with. Oh, you've been banned away as well, Tim.
Interesting. I'm gone. I am out of here. This could be a solo cast for you, Des. Interesting choice coming in from FURIA there. We've just seen the impact that Uno was able to have on the Pulse. They played an awful lot of it back on Chalet, and Consulate is a map where you can do the same thing. You can go and sit inside a basement on the Pulse, and you can just feed information back into your team. So FURIA certainly taking a look at that. If we look at their usual process on Consulate, Des, we would see them ban out either Echo or Kaid. This time they've left those two operators in there, focused in on the Pulse, and just removed the information from G2.
I don't think you're going to see too much Maverick being brought on this map because he's not really all that effective unless you're attacking into the basement, which is why, again, I thought they were trying to shoehorn G2 into the Thermite, which Kayak is very happily going to grab up here. We'll see if that changes as things go by, and in fact he is changing away. The Ace is going to come out for them still, so clearly not all that bothered about the smokes. They care far more, of course, about the Selmas. Not at all suggesting that smokes were the only reason you brought along the Ace, but they were a big reason why he was so dominant for the longest time. And that being said, he's not even bringing along the Claymores here. Instead opting towards the Breach Charge. He is just going to be a destruction machine in this round, Ace.
He certainly is. Now we're heading straight up to the top floor for FURIA on the defence here. It's going to be Console office to begin with. Now an interesting difference for you, Des, that you might see. I know inside of EU particularly, and APAC to a degree, we see the tertiary site tends to be press and lobby, or even higher up the ranking than that. We tend to see quite a lot of press and lobby. Where you tend to find for the LATAM teams, it's more archives and tellers and a little bit less press and lobby. So we could well see the split site getting brought along from FURIA this time around. Now, if you're looking at this, you've maybe not seen FURIA play before. Who should you be looking out for? Well, Fantasy on the Jaeger, he's already getting aggressive up at the windows there. Some have labelled him, and when I say some, I'm going to call him out. XR Troika has labelled him the Brazilian Bolo. He's this young player that's come through straight into comp, and he is an impressive fragger, so he is one to watch out for. And if you're more like me, maybe a support main, you like your support players, Rhea had 12 plants inside of stage 1 and an extremely good rating. I think he was over, I think about 1.14 for the entire stage, which is very respectable for a support player. So another one to watch.
Well, we'll see if they can have the big impact they want. The Brazilian Bolo, as X calls him. I tell you what, if he goes like 0 and 10, X is going to look like an absolute idiot. And I'll live for that, bless him. But we'll see, of course, if Fantasy can do anything once this round gets underway. 60 seconds in. No one yet being... Ooh, the reverse shot out of Virtue. And it's from Lender, not Fan. Don't look at me like that, Ace. It wasn't out of Fantasy.
He's the other one to watch. He's your other big fragger on this side is Lender, and he certainly gets himself involved nice and early on the Oryx. An operator to watch out for as well. If you're not too familiar with Oryx, he crashes through soft walls just using the force of his arms. He's a big beefy boy, Des.
Hit the gym a few times recently.
He's hit the gym and he just crashes his way in through there. But also, he's able to use that strength to just get himself a little pull-up, gets himself jumped onto an open hatch, and he's able to climb up levels, which is, of course, very unusual. And it's always an ability I like to keep an eye on, especially here on Consulate, where you've got so many hatches moving from level to level. It gives him a real opportunity to make a nuisance of himself out on the roam. Now, still 5 versus 4, 1 minute 20 left to go, and G2 stalling out a little bit here, Des.
I wouldn't be horrifically surprised to see Citizens focus here as he pushes in towards Spiral to start thinking about getting underneath and nading from below, potentially. Oh, a little bit too easy there for Miracle as Uno peeks out solo from Meeting. And for the side of G2, it has been this admin take and push across. The easy to take early, the harder to attack from later, because you've got a lot of single doorways to push through, for example, whereas yellow is often seen as the reverse. Harder to take initially, easier to do things from a little bit later on. Grenade kill coming out at the very least from Canton with the 4 frags on side. You've relied on at least one of those happening. And there's Citizen on Spiral, like we commented on earlier on, looking to make something happen, and make it happen he will. 3 versus 3.
Squared away now for G2, but time could be their enemy. 30 seconds left to go, and still defenders to find a way around. Fantasy being one of those on the Jaeger, challenging down the length of the long desk. And this right now is a game of cat and mouse. G2 just trying to get themselves inside of sight and in a position to challenge. Miracle's just going to hold himself on that meeting room desk there on the Aruni. Now Kanto has no choice but to move in and just absolutely tank the damage from the laser gate, and there's more damage flying in Des as Miracle and Highs find themselves kills. It's all down to Citizen 1v3. No! He does it! Unbelievable play from Citizen as he manages to get in with a triple kill at the end there, just taking them down one after another like skills falling in a bowling alley, Des. There was nothing they could do to keep themselves on their feet in the face of Citizen.
Oh my...
Is this how it's going to be?
Put Citizen and Virtue on Consulate and watch them sing. We saw it against Virtus Pro during the regular season when it felt like Virtus Pro, who of course sadly couldn't make it due to COVID-19 in the team, we saw Citizen and Virtue have an absolute field day. FURIA had done everything right. They'd found the early kills and ran the clock down to 0. That like it was a done and dusted deal, but when Citizen is still alive, you cannot count the round as ended. Unbelievable to win a 1 versus 3 with 9 seconds on the clock.
Just picking up the 3 kills there. Fantasy, Miracle and Highs, I'm sure, are going to be absolutely kicking themselves at this point. You can't throw away those rounds. As I said, FURIA, they're going to have a tough day of it here against G2. It's a little bit of a baptism by fire for them, coming in against one of the very, very strong EU teams on the whole. They've got their opportunity. They've got themselves 3-1 up. They could take that first round, and those are the ones that they're going to have to secure. Otherwise, they're going to be looking back at a defeat at the end of this game, and they're going to be looking back to rounds like that and knowing that that's where it started to slip away. So G2, they take the first round. Heading into number 2, it's going to be down to Garage and Cafeteria.
Indeed, it is. The Maestro being brought out, very common on this site. We'll often have one in the loading bay area down on the floor, so you can see underneath trucks, for example, shoot out any drones that are coming in, even zap away anyone trying to go for a plant. Thank you very much, Medics, highlighting where one is right now. They can see all the way across all those default plant spots. It can be very, very annoying unless the attackers manage to clear it out with something like the Zofia impacts, the Ash breaching rounds, the grenades out of the sledge and the Iana. Long story short, if those Maestro cams are still alive late round, G2 have messed up.
The drone's allowed in through the drone hole there. The mute jammer not quite covering it, but of course more important that they are there to keep the breach closed. Now Kayak, he's going to apply the exthermic charge and just back away. He will wait to get the shout that those mute jammers are clear, and then he'll activate it. There they go, and there he goes. Nice and easy. The breach is open inside of the first minute, and this is nicely played from G2 so far.
They have always been very good at getting this wall opened up, admittedly. It's never been a massive problem for them. And here with the Thermite, with the 2 extra thermics, nothing else that you'd really have to worry about opening up with Hard Breach. You can just commit both to this wall, get the whole thing completely opened up, whereas some teams with things like an Ace like to just open very small snippets of it, rappel upside down, and take challenges through that hole that you've managed to open up. At least here with it open up and 2 minutes to play with, there is no excuse if G2 don't manage to go for an execute. With no smokes on site, sorry, they do have smokes on site on the Thermite, sorry, of course. I'm very excited to see if they go for a similar play to what they've done before. Smoke it out, get the drones in, for example, then have Citizen just beeline it for Cafe and try and kill as many people as he can. It's worked for them so well during the regular season.
Has Miracle and Fantasy just holding a high line of defence there, right up against those cafeteria and security walls. Now Lender, it's going to be to open things up again, this time with a kill onto Citizen, taking the headshot there, and he's out on the Oryx, he's in the map and he's making a nuisance of himself, Des, and it's something that G2 need to deal with, because if they don't, what's going to happen in the late round is Lender's going to make his way into Piano, and he's going to start holding off this plant opportunity vertically, and if they don't clear him out, it is going to be a big, big problem for G2 in this final minute.
For Lender, both of the opening kills have gone his way. That's really been his only contribution in the rounds, mind you, but they are still impactful early kills to find out, whilst the attackers have still got some utility on side, whilst they're still squaring up to go for the assault. We're now a minute and a half in, past when G2 have opened that wall and had pretty much every single member scattered outside, except for Virtue, who's doing work solo out towards the east side of the map. The rest of them now, smoke's coming out, this is where you're saying it's time to go. Kayak is in, a bit of an alternative plant spot as the second kill comes out behind. Kayak's being tagged up though and has got to move here, sees the man lying down, but Miracle picks up the kill. Uno in a 1 versus 4 with 19 seconds to play. This will be round 2 going to FURIA Ace.
Solid defense from FURIA there. They were well aware of exactly what G2 wanted to do. Kayak tried to move himself into an off-brand plant spot, not seen too often in there by the yellow stairs wall, but they were well aware, and the smoke canisters, they just flew into the perfect spot. Kayak had an age to run to get through them, and it left him with about 10 seconds after he'd had I don't know how many lungfuls of that toxic gas. Really did leave him worse for wear. FURIA then close up. We can see Twister just having a laugh with the players there. He's just having a little chuckle in the background. In the corner there, the coach for FURIA, and
the silent corner guardian, I'm going to call him.
Yeah, exactly.
Sit there and argue in the darkest part of the room,
having a little
overlooking your players, your domain.
1-1, we find ourselves heading into round 3 then, and G2, I'm sure at this point, know that they are in for a game. Lender's managed to get himself a good couple of opening frags to start things off out on the roam. That's something that G2 are going to have to address and deal with. They can't allow that to continue forever, because they're just putting themselves at a disadvantage. And this time for round 3, we're going to be heading back up to Consulate office this time around. We did see this back in round 1. It was close. Closer than it should have been.
No, it wasn't. FURIA stopped, but then Citizen happened.
Yes, that was the thing. It was, and I mean, from a point of view for FURIA, they will look at this side and think, we can get that. We were close to it. It was 3v1. We shouldn't be throwing that away. They're going to be confident that the rest of the round, 90% of that round, went fantastically well for them.
It looks for G2 the fact they've got 2 drones currently set up in admin that they are not going to be looking towards going for a yellow stairs take. It's become almost a characteristic of theirs where they attack the same site differently every single time we step back into it. Whereas here the fact that there are drones scattered out to the east suggests to me at least that it's not going to be a yellow setup. And with only Kayak spawning up towards the northwest, that suggests just as much. Looking to see what they can do with this clash, because very commonly, and when I see this setup, this just screams to me yellow stairs setup. You've got the clash, you've got the Doc who can play inside of the bathroom and inject, or from far away at least, stim up the clash to restore some HP, as well as the Jaeger that can of course stack those ADSs in there. No one might at least make it happen, so maybe a slight alternative coming in, but these operators to me all at least line up and say yellow stairs setup.
Here goes Fantasy taking himself an opening kill onto Virtue. That's a headshot and that's the Ash down. Not the end of the world for G2 in terms of operators to lose, but Highs, he's just going to juice him up, give him a few of those HP back that he lost in that fight, and that puts Fantasy back up to just over 100 HP. That's the extra, ticks away over time. It's only a time-based bonus of overhealing, so Fantasy finds himself back at 100 HP, able to get himself back out on the roam if he chooses to, and continue to hassle the flanks of G2. Lender did lose his life in the midst of that action, and G2 yet to really establish themselves inside of the map, Des.
No, it's just it. Fantasy returning back to the dock shop there to get some heals, and they're probably back out again, causing chaos around the map. At the very least, you've got to consider that he's out there causing trouble. You've got a clash that you've got to face down against as well. Heaven knows where Miracle's playing at this point on the Aruni either. It's just about making sure that G2 are always uncomfortable inside the map, almost dishing out them a taste of their own medicine with this very aggressive roam play. It's beautiful.
Certainly is. Now Fancy, he's just looking to get aggressive, isn't he? All the way back down to the basement, onto the mid floor. He is all over the place, very mobile at the minute. It's something G2 need to be aware of. The Gemini just being burnt there to take away that Aruni laser gate and give easier access into the meeting room. Uno, he's going to look to get himself onto the console office windows potentially and start to apply some pressure from the rappel. But once again, the time is ticking away, Des. But Highs, you can't move around that freely inside. You've got to be aware of those windows, and Uno, he takes advantage of that opportunity to shut the dock down, and that leaves us 45 seconds, 4 versus 2, and surely a round heading in G2's direction.
And they've still got so much utility still to play with as well. All the intel coming out on the Zofia, a bit of a team kill coming in, slightly unfortunate, but Rare on the clash is the last one left alive. It's going to have to be a miraculous clutch here to keep things going, I think. Does he know about the players? He's right. No, he doesn't. Gets shot down from the guy playing on long desk. It was Citizen. Much more comfortable round for G2, admittedly, and I think although FURIA tried this roam base play, it was just slapped down into the dirt by G2.
It was. G2 looking much better at the beginning of Consulate than they did at the end of Chalet, and that's what we like to see. We want to see all the regions teams coming out and giving their best performances here, and we want to see G2 come and deliver exactly that, and they've certainly looked better through the first 3 rounds here. Just looking more confident, Des, more aware of the surroundings than they did necessarily, not getting caught out like they were at the back end of Chalet. So moving into round 4 then, we're going to see Citizen. He's taking the top of the pops at the minute, 6-1. He's going very well, but G2 need to be careful that they don't end up too reliant on him.
And you called this out earlier on, the site choice for LATAM. I think in EUL Stage 1 we saw a good number of teams starting to make use of this site, sometimes ahead of Lobby and Piano as well, although I don't know if it's strictly as dominant, I don't believe it is. So here, we're having a quick rehost. I've just been reinformed, which is why you are back to staring at the players. And no doubt that means when we get back into things though, Tellers and Archives will be heading our way.
Certainly will. Now, what are you going to see differently on Archives and Tellers? What can you expect to see? Well, generally speaking, vertical pressure is extremely important for the attackers on this site. So usually what attacking teams will try to do is get themselves into the top floor. They're going to move into admin, which we've seen G2 making a little bit of use of already, so it'll be a similar process. Get themselves into admin, get that top floor control, and then move down from there. So they'll apply vertical pressure onto Tellers, take control of Tellers and Visa, and then get in and try to get a plant down inside of Tellers, usually speaking. You're going to try and do that up on the marble plinth or up on top of, there's some filing cabinets that you can vault up on top of. Try and get the diffuser down up there, and the reason that they're doing that is usually there are a number of nitro cells brought along by the defenders. They try to get themselves locked downstairs in Archives, and they'll try to deny with explosives vertically. They'll also open up a couple of sort of opportune peak holes to be able to take shots through onto the more common plant spots. So it is all about vertical pressure. Now, occasionally you do get a nice exciting attack that just goes boof, like a sledgehammer in through Garage, straight into Archives, and just tries to wipe out all of that vertical explosive threat. And it is always fun to see, but those are generally the 2 options you're going to see for Archives Tellers.
I think back to the number of times this season where the commonality has been to plant them on that cabinet, like you say, can't be C4 from below. What have teams adapted? Open the floor, have a sailing C4, one that kind of explodes in midair as you pop it up. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yep.
I'll never forget the double C4 that came up as well through Archives from the downstairs. Just popped up outside the window onto Virtuous playing outside Visa window. Absolute beauty. I'd love to see more play like that. What concerns me slightly, and where I think there will be a 6th pick, is looking at the operators that were selected just before we were about to get into that round. We only saw 2 potential C4 wielding operators. We had the Aruni, we had the Jaeger, we had the Vigil. 3 ops that can't bring along a C4. So looking at them, I'm thinking surely there's a 6th pick there, because every EU team that has gone to this site, I would wager in 90% of cases, has brought along 4 C4s for this defense.
I think generally what you're doing in that case is you're accepting that, in honesty, there isn't a huge amount, I wouldn't say, of diffuser denial that comes from nitro kills.
They want to play upstairs in their case is what I'm thinking.
Get right in the faces, don't even give them the opportunity to put the diffuser down, rather than putting all that pressure and weight onto those explosives for what is still a difficult throw. You know, if somebody is up on the plinth, is up on the cabinet, there's not much you can do about it, unless you can, like you say, get it to sail up and explode mid-air. If you're getting it on the ceiling above you, you're not going to disrupt players who are then getting that plant down. So I think if that's the case, and we are seeing a sort of minimal of explosives brought along, it is much more going to be a case of get up into their face, playing, don't allow them access to admin, just keep hassling them constantly. The Vigil would play in perfectly to that. Just try and keep yourself unpredictable and just don't allow them access. And it is something that we've seen in the LATAM region, where we have players playing in console, office and bathroom particularly into as late into the round as they can, so they can just keep challenging down long desk and don't allow players to get comfortable, because it's very difficult as attackers to move down to Tellers and Visa if you don't have that admin control, because all that's going to happen is your players in console, your players in bathroom, as soon as you try and move down, they're going to sweep across the top floor again, and they're just going to use those vertical angles through the hatch. There's plenty of soft floors that can be destroyed up there, and lines of sight that can be opened, and they'll make you laugh in misery.
I was just looking over the picks actually just to make sure I was right on that whole 2 C4s thing, and in fact the 4th pick was a Maestro, so there's only the Mozzie that could possibly be bringing out a C4 here. So that just screamed to me again, playing Denala on the site itself with the Maestro Evil Eyes, also looking to play probably prevention around the map itself, never actually let them look to execute inside of Visa. We'll see how that plays out once we get back into it. But I want to touch again on the story of G2 so far today. This is a big game for them, because if you go 0-2 against, you know, not at all to turn around and say that the teams are bad, but to lose against Team 1, a middling LATAM team, I think it's fair to say, against FURIA, who sit probably lower down the rankings of all the LATAM teams here, if they were to go on and lose this game, I think suddenly there's a lot of questions start being asked of G2 of this was probably their best chance coming in with the revisions they've had to their roster. They've looked pretty good. Again, their own game on Chalet, their attacks were excellent, but still don't have the end product to actually deliver the wins when it really counts.
Well, you've got to look further forward as well. You know, we can look at each group and we can say, okay, there's only one team gets relegated and goes home from each group stage. Yeah. So even with 2 losses, there is still plenty of opportunity. Let's not, you know, sound the panic alarms just yet. There's plenty of opportunity for G2 to still go through and get themselves into the final stages. But as you say, the questions start getting asked then. If you're going to struggle against 2 middle-of-the-pack teams, you know, we've got to call it as we see it. We can't argue that, you know, necessarily FURIA and Team 1, as good as the performances might have been in getting wins, we can't argue that they're necessarily, you know, at the same standard coming in as people like SSG, Liquid. You know, they're a middle-of-the-pack team, and if G2 are going to struggle there, how are they going to fare against those big NA teams? How are they going to fare against the big LATAM, the big APAC teams? How are they going to come in against a team like Cloud9 potentially? It's not going to be easy for G2 from there on out.
Agreed. Let's see how the round plays out. Then there is that 6th pick in, the Malusi stepping in for the Jaeger, so there are 2 C4s. You might say I'm quite obsessed with C4s. You'd be absolutely correct. We'll see how it shapes out though, looking down the line of what they've got. Again, we were screaming about this Rome-based player looking towards the Vigil, towards now the Malusi, the Aruni, and the Mozzie. Potentially, you could have 4 players off-site here looking to cause trouble.
So we can see Miracle just getting in there with a bulletproof cam. Interesting position there, looking back into the teller's sight. So obviously very keen to cover any potential plant spots and make sure that they have full visibility where possible. G2 need to pay the due diligence as and when they decide to push into sight, if they indeed do look to plant inside the tellers, and just make sure that they are clearing out that intel gathering gadget of the bulletproof cam. Otherwise it will make that denial a lot easier. Now how about that, Des? Highs, he puts the Alder to use. We usually see it at the end of the rounds, just hold mouse 1 and close out the last 20 seconds, but no, he manages to get a peek inside of the first 20 seconds here, taking Virtue down. And G2, they're going to be kicking themselves, Des, and if they come away without a win today, they're going to be looking back at moments exactly like that, and they're going to be trying to fathom out exactly what has happened there.
I guarantee you, Virtue has just screamed into his microphone, what the bloody hell is he doing there? Why is there a player looking to peek out that window at that point in the round? He felt pretty secure sat out there, like this isn't really a problem. Like, I can step out here, just worry about the drones, get on the rappel in a minute, and then there's an Alder swinging the window. Of all guns to swing you at that point in the round, ludicrous. Second one coming out in a very similar location. G2 clearly really want control in this position, but the side of FURIA are just saying no.
Absolutely not having any of this at the minute. 5 versus 3 find ourselves now in FURIA. They are certainly adapting well to the G2 attack here in round 4, and as I said, not looking to play for that vertical denial onto any diffuser attempt. They are just stopping that plant from ever happening at all. They are getting right up in the faces of G2, and they are not allowing them anywhere near tellers or anywhere near an area that they could put that diffuser on the ground.
You're looking towards this vertical play that we were talking about. It's more in the control of G2. That hammer swinging at the floor to open up as much as they can. Needs to be wary of the C4s. It's such a common spot to get caught out here as you're trying to step in through copy. Should be okay for now. We've seen these vertical angles be used by players like Blur. I always recall from him having a 1 versus 2 against from Cabana in this exact location. Killed Anarchic, who pushed him, then turned around and killed Kendrew, who was going for the defuse on site. Can be a really powerful position. That's why the attackers want control of it. But at the minute, the verticals are doing nothing for them except dealing death. Fantasy bringing down another. A 5 versus 2 for FURIA. This looks to be their round in the bag.
Certainly does. The drop comes in. Kayak dropped as he goes. Highs with a second. Great round for him on the Maestro. And that's going to be a flawless for FURIA. Twister, very excited in the corner there. He knows what's what. The players as well. The thing for FURIA, Des, is they come into this tournament with little in the way of expectation. You know, for anybody who doesn't know the story behind FURIA, this really is a Cinderella story here. Coming out of 2020, they finished bottom, dead last inside of the BR6, and that put them into a relegation playoff with their Challenger League team. They came through, they won it, they saved their place. They've got themselves back into things in stage 1 in more of a fashion than anybody could have anticipated. They were at a point there's fighting for the top spot. They needed other results to go in their favour, but they could have taken the top spot in the BR6 away from FaZe and Liquid, and that is what you've got to remember. They've had wins against the big boys. They've beaten Black Dragons, they've beaten NIP, they've shown some great capability, they've brought players through from their academy team, they've got good support staff. They're doing everything right as an organisation and as a team. So for them, getting to the 6 Invitational after being in that relegation battle, they've already won, Des. This is the cup final. Just turn up, have fun, win games. If you win them, fantastic. And you can see that they're all laughing, they're happy, and they're playing and having a lot of fun. And that can make them a very, very dangerous team. It was Fluke who said to us yesterday, the less you have, what was it? The less that you have to lose, the more that you can win.
Something like that. Yeah. Can't really
Pretty sure that was the one.
Yeah, probably. What I'm really excited about is the red crosshair on the right-hand side of our screens. It is the glass being brought along by Uno. I've harked back to the days of when we played on Border, and I believe it was against Empire, who were defending vertically inside Events Workshop. They were holding the ground above. What did G2 bring? They had the glass, they had the Monty, they had something else with smokes that I can't fully remember, and they pulled off one of the most incredible executes I think I've ever seen. Now, how they're planning to use this is going to speak volumes, because you've got the 4 smokes coming through, the 2 on the thermite, 2 on the glass. This could be a really great way to contest. For example, the smoker will normally step out and throw out those smoke canisters. Of course, Uno will be able to see just fine as long as he isn't moving. He had a couple of tweets, Glass, where it was a bit of a quicker reset time. You didn't have to wait as long before you could see the outlines of players that were moving through smoke once you'd stop moving. Keen to see how they make use of it.
It feels like they've got him into quite a nice spot now with Glaz. He's not brought an awful lot, but does have his uses occasionally. Now, of course, previously the reason that he got nerfed, he was used too much as an entry fragger, but what a great line of sight just found from Citizen there. Able to shut down Miracle with a nice long angle. It was just 10 a fraction too soon, Des. I think the throw was just a little bit deep as well, but Kayak and Uno, they were in mortal peril at a point there.
They were dead for rights there, and it's a wonder they're still alive. Very fortunate to be so. This could have been round done and dusted. Uno wasn't too sure about the thought there. Oh, Jesus, Virtue. That is testing the limits of what you can get away with.
They really are, just forcing every drop, every angle that they can get here, G2, to try and get that diffuser inside. Now then, the challenge, Lender and Citizen both take damage on that angle. Citizen's looking to get a nade in and force the man back. That's what he does. He sprints in to follow it, but he's shut down by the Elder of Highs, who's having a great couple of rounds, and here we go. Out comes the pistol, and Fantasy goes huge, Des. He gets himself 2, shutting down the plant. It's all down to Uno. How many times are we going to say that? He finds himself a second with the thermal scope of Glass, and that leaves us now 1 versus 2. There's an age left on the clock. There's 50 seconds left, and this is doable for Uno.
Plenty of time to play with, so I agree with you. We've already seen Uno almost pull back a couple of clutches. If he dodges the man vertically, which he has done, he could go on to win this gunfight. Must know the man's on yellow, knows it is peeking, but no, he's already rotated down the back stairs towards site to set up the crossfire, and Furia will close things out. It started out promising for G2, but Furia are definitely fighting back.
Furia take the lead then and find themselves 3-2 up on the defensive half. Going very well so far, certainly showing a good mastery over the garage site, able to get a couple of wins down there. G2 unable to attack that successfully so far. So heading into round number 6, we will see the final site as we're going to be going to press and lobby. Now, this could be an interesting choice for Furia, because we said it's a bit more of a European site. It's press and lobby we tend to see quite a lot in EUL. It's going to be a site that G2 are more than prepared for. They will be very familiar with the attack onto this site. They'll likely again look for some top floor control, not too dissimilar to Archives and Tellers, but I expect a little bit more out of G2. I expect a tougher round for Furia here.
Very commonly on this site, you'll have the vertical hold as well. You'll get yourself inside a meeting. Some teams, if they're feeling particularly inventive, will go for this 3-story hole where you open up the circular hatch inside a lobby, you open up some of the meeting flooring above, thank you very much, medics, and get a wonderful shot straight the way through. And that looks to be exactly what they've gone for here. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see someone playing downstairs and looking to contest that meeting window. Unless G2 drone this out, that can be a nasty surprise as soon as you start thinking about getting any kind of control in the building.
And they need to be very careful about the droning, Des. You mentioned it there. You know, they've got to be careful of that window, got to be careful with droning. And the reason is that they've lost 4 out of 5 entry battles so far. 80% of opening kills have gone to Furia. Lender has 2, Fancy has 1, and Highs has 1. And that is putting G2 at a serious disadvantage in the early rounds. Now, first 20 seconds, they are safe at least. There's a potential for a nade coming out there, and Lender's just going to dip himself away. He will hold back on angle onto the garage wall, though. He doesn't want to give that space up too quickly. Doesn't want to let G2 just run rampant underneath them. And it's an interesting push from G2, Des. It's not one that we see too often. We usually see top floor control be in the area that teams are fighting over, but there is also the potential to get in underneath and work from the lower basement floor as well.
Definitely thinking about that 3-floor angle that I was talking about earlier on as well. Don't want someone sat in that kind of position. But I think equally Furia don't want to get forced away without a fight here. They had a couple of members roaming on the downstairs, the Maestro included, who's now going to back his way up Spiral. So G2, you may wager for now, have done the right job. They've managed to clear them out of playing in basement, get them either on the top floor or on the ground floor. That's 1 out of 3 floors cleared and 1 out of 5 kills secured. Fantasy taken down by Citizen, make it a second as a double kill steps to the field. That's the kind of impact you want in the early round.
Much better start for G2 there. That's what we want to see out of this team. Citizen able to get himself a nice double to kick things off from the rappel, and it puts Furia right on the back foot now. As I suggested, this was always going to be a tough sight for them, and I'd suggest if they don't get the next kill here, it is pretty much done and dusted for G2 to take at least an even split on the half. Now, Uno, he's going to get himself access through to yellow stairs. He's in a potential position to get himself pushed downstairs. Now then, are they aware of Rare's position here, Des? He's actually going to drop himself down the spiral stairs. It's a little bit rich for his taste there. Now then, out goes the Nitro, but he's just short of the mark.
May have killed us through the wall. That's the explosive changes we saw coming through. Those kind of things can kill people just through the holes that they open into any walls neighbouring them. It isn't isolated to the room in which it is detonated. But as you say, just a little bit too shy. Unfortunate. You got Rare still lurking around. Wants to cook his own steak here by the looks of it in the form of G2 players, but no one to be found. Going to be left up cold, I think, and may even have to back away as he's put down to about 30 HP. Away he will back. And G2, that clock waits for no one. You've got 25 seconds in a 5 versus 3. Where is the execute?
Miracle still locked inside of the bathroom here. Rare, he's caused an absolute nuisance on the top floor, Des. He's still not been shut down. Citizen manages to find him, but not before they lose Uno. 12 seconds left to go. Virtue takes a lot of damage, but the kills start coming in. Surely it's too little too late for Furia now. Miracle manages to find one, but Kayak's getting the diffuser down, extending the timer and giving every second that G2 needs. Citizen moves in with the final kill, and that is going to be leveling things up 3-3 at the half.
I feel sorry for Citizen in a way. There's probably a point at which he's sitting there head in hand saying, how much have I got to do to get this team over the finish line? 4 kills to his name, and there's still a player inside a bathroom causing trouble. Rare rotating back upstairs, causing more trouble. Citizen has to kill him through the bullet hole on the top floor. He did everything in that round, and G2 still almost ran out of time. This is becoming really dicey for G2, and looking at the stats, I'm looking across the desk at your device from here, Ace, and all I'm seeing is green for Citizen. Everyone else, red, yellow, not looking too good.
It's not looking too good, and as you say, G2, the thing is, Des, they're keeping themselves in it. They're 3-3, they're fighting, they're contesting the game. If we could just get a little bit more out of one or two others, they'd be winning the game. And that's the point. They just need to get themselves over that threshold to get that advantage. Now, will the defense prove to be exactly what they need? They are moving into round number 7, which means, of course, that we swap sides. The teams will do 6 defensive rounds followed by 6 attacking rounds. And in this case, vice versa for G2. So they're going to be taking the top floor to begin with up in the console office. Virtue on the dock, it's something that we saw Furia making good use of as well, allowing players to get out on the roam, take those challenges, take those gunfights, win them in the case of Fantasy quite often, and then get himself back up to that top floor, get juiced up by those stim pistol shots, get all that missing HP back, and then head back out on the roam to cause more trouble.
Worth mentioning that over the rehosts that we've had so far on this map, unfortunately, of course, stats don't carry. Citizen is 11-3. He's in a spot where at the halfway mark, if this were to go through to overtime, he's pressing well into the 20s, depending entirely on how their defensive half goes. But given he's on that Mozzie, I'm expecting him to be more on the roam-based play. For G2, this looks like a yellow stairs hold, given that there is the Doc, there is the Jaeger, there is the Wamai. And I always look at Kayak. Whenever I see that Echo, I break into a sweat. No doubt many members of Virtus Pro are exactly the same, because they remember how he has tormented so many teams this season with that operator.
How could you do him like that, Des? How could you bring up that final round?
As if not being here was painful enough, reminding them of what happened is unbelievable.
Bringing up that final round of the Virtus Pro.
There he is.
The game where Kayak was able to clutch the 1v4. Now Citizen, he is going big here. That's his 12th kill of the game so far, picking up the opener onto Rare. He's fighting as well for a second. He knows that he is not alone here in the admin office, and he is looking to keep them out of there for as long as possible. But Heiz and Lender, they team up, Des, and they find Kanto and Citizen, turn things on its head, and it's 4 versus 3 all of a sudden in the favour of Furia.
Question mark. Man loves the iron sights, apparently. I mean, he had a bit of assist coming in there as well with the Echo drone from above, and I thought, oh, surely there's no way Heiz wins this, but no, he walks away with it. Fancy trying to repel in, there's still a man left. It's Virtue holding close, brings him down as well. 3 versus 3, and we're only halfway through the round.
It's an absolute bloodbath so far. We've seen it a couple of times whereby G2 have found themselves with plenty of time on the clock, and it happened back in the last game as well. Team 1 a number of times finding those really early kills and then just being able to sit back, get the drones out there and just really take the pace of the round down. Now, right now, Furia, they don't seem intent on letting the pace drop here, Des, as Miracle finds a kill onto Kayak and continues to push up the meeting stairs. He wants to have more than a meeting of minds here. He wants to have a meeting of bullets as he gets in there and finds a kill, leaving them now 3 versus 2. 50 seconds left to go. This is a lot of time for Virtue and Uno to absorb. Virtue, as a point in the credit, Des, he has 2 stim pistol shots left. If everything gets a bit busy, it might be difficult to use those, so potentially look at an overheal here before the fight comes.
At this point, you may as well use them. You've got 2 sat in back pocket, and you know this is going to come down to the firefights as we go into the final 30 seconds. That could be a massive advantage given the health bars of the members of Furia. There comes one from Uno, still going for these long-range fights. A little bit scratched by that fight, down to about 66% HP. It's not the end of the world, but that juice will come through. Back to 100, into the 2 versus 2, but Heiz hits different. Finds one onto Virtue. Uno, can he clutch this up? The plant's down. It's a temporary 1 versus 1. He's going in for the planter, but he can't see him. He's in behind the chassis. It's down. He has got a lot of work to do to be able to bring this one back over the finish line. Otherwise, Furia take that finish line for themselves. He sees the arm. Lender down about 40 HP. Uno down to a slither. Doesn't see the man. Didn't see Lender step out. Furia go 4 and 3. It is looking dicey for G2.
Wow, that round was back and forward. It was just never clear who was going to take it. The advantage swung in one direction and then the other, but ultimately Furia are able to lock it down. I really thought Uno and Virtue at the end there just had it on a lock when they got themselves to the 2 versus 2 and prevented the plant going down to begin with, but Furia just able to apply that pressure, and it was the kill onto Virtue that really turned the fortunes for them there, Des. That gave them all the space that they needed to get that diffuser picked up and to put it down on the ground. As you say, the positioning was great. The body was completely covered so that Uno could not get a look through there, and Lender just showing a real presence of mind to make sure there was no arm or leg or back sticking out where it shouldn't be.
This is a Furia timeout. It's worth mentioning, or a pause here. Find out more about the details of that as and when we can, but it gives both teams, I think, good time to take a brief pause, where Furia is a tactical timeout, I've just had confirmed as well, rather than a pause. But they're in a spot where they've kind of come out in the lead there, but clearly not happy with something that happened in that round. There was a bit of miscommunication along the way, something they want to address before they go into round number 8. But again, Tim, they stand as the leaders. G2 are staring down the barrel of potentially a long career in Crash Down to a defeat to a LATAM team.
They certainly are, and G2, they have to use this opportunity to start digging into those mental reserves, Des, to dig deep. You know, they've taken, let's not forget, the loss in the last game to Team 1 was not just a loss. They were 6-2 up. They had 4 match point opportunities to close that out that they were unable to do. Team 1 completely ran the ball back in from there, went 6 rounds in a row, and G2 did not get a sniff of another round until the end of the game. And now they come in here and find themselves down to FURIA, which, let's be fair, coming into it, all the teams respect each other. They all know that they've got the capability to get wins, but looking at this, G2 are probably going to look at this matchup and think, this is a game that we need to take 3 points from, and all of a sudden, they're on the back foot.
Massively. And I was just looking down the entry stats so far for this game. You touched on it in the round 4, how it's FURIA 4-0 up. The last 3 rounds, every single opening kill by Citizen, including the 4K that he had in round number 6. Fair to say, a lot of weight on his shoulders here. He needs to drag the team through. You would be asking questions of where is the rest of G2, as I believe, looking at the rest of the stats, he currently has more kills combined than the rest of the team collectively. He has 12, the rest of the team has 10. It's not a good look, boys.
Not at all, and right now, as you say, G2 certainly needing to find their identity and get themselves back into this one and find some frags, because FURIA, they will not mess about. Given the opportunity, they will be closing this one out as quickly as they can. Now, that was a good start to the round for Uno, managing to snag himself a drone. The role of the Mozzie for a defender here at this level of play, it's not necessarily the same as you might go for in ranked, where you are looking to grab those drones, you're looking to have that information. That is purely a bonus at this level of play. The primary function of that Mozzie is what we call area denial of those drones. So, for example, to throw a quick example to you, if you were playing on the top floor here of Consulate, you'd want to get one on spiral stairs, yellow stairs, and the Visa stairs immediately. If no drones can get up those stairs, you've got a complete blackout on that top floor until drones start getting thrown in through the windows. And what it does is it wastes a lot of time, because at the beginning of the round, the attackers have to come in and start actively droning. They can't do it in the prep phase. And also, it just means you have to face check angles. You can't be ready for peaks. There's all sorts of things that go along with it. So they're not necessarily always looking to actually capture a drone. They're just looking to deny access to areas. But if they get one, then it's a little bonus for them. But doesn't matter what bonuses G2 get at the minute, Des. Lender, he finds the headshot onto Virtue. They just don't seem to be able to find any dividends from them.
Oh, it's painful. Virtue had a pretty bad day so far as well. That's him now 0-4 on the entry. And again, we look at him and Citizen as the pairing, the ones that will be making the difference alongside someone like Kanto, who admittedly in this round is playing a more passive role on the mute. Just thinking here about where is the impact going to come if not from Citizen. We'll see how things shape up, mind you. Admin where things have kicked off here. Now look to sweep across to the west. It's something we've seen a million times over. They want this vertical control. There's even the reinforced hatch here as well, which sometimes is less soft. So you're looking towards Rare here being the guy who needs to stay alive until the late round to get that one open. Otherwise, there's no hatch play for them.
It just looks like everything's going wrong for G2 at the minute, Des. They get themselves onto defence, they look for a peak here, they're just looking for that early round aggression to try and get something going, and it just backfires. They just find themselves on the wrong end of the kill. Now, Uno, he's using that Mozzie drone. Look at that, here comes Kanto, this is beautiful on a yellow ping. Miracle absolutely decimated as Kanto detonates the Nitro, and that is great interplay between the Mozzie and Kanto there on the mute. Absolutely fantastic. Fantasy, however, he gets one onto Citizen and puts the advantage back in the hands of FURIA. G2 can have those great individual hero play moments, Des, but they need to double down on it and turn them into rounds.
Just goes to show the power of a stolen Mozzie, but they're smoked off anti, and now they're going for a plant inside a lobby. Is anyone on G2 aware? No one's even able to contest as they're busy on the top floor. They've got away with it again. What is it with these LATAM teams and sneaking these plants away against G2? It's all down to Uno. He can do nothing. It's 5-3 to FURIA, and from bad is going to worse, it feels like, for G2. I know we're saying it round after round, but it's the truth.
One more round now will guarantee FURIA overtime and also give them a whole host of match point opportunities to close this one out for the 3 points in the table, Des, and it will leave G2 with 0 from 6 possible points in their 2 opening games. G2, it is now or never for them today. They need to start getting these rounds on the board. They can't let FURIA get onto that match point. They're going to be defending. They're taking the split site, Des. They go into archives and tell us, but remember what I said. It is a common site inside of LATAM, and FURIA, they're certainly not going to be scared of attacking this one.
Not at all, and I love how we saw the Mozzie kind of being used there in the more supportive manner, because when he came out, a lot of people were saying, he's kind of guy who's going to steal drones and drive them around all around, and what we actually saw in reality was things like the SSG drone being born, where you were looking more for area of denial, in which zone the Mozzie could very freely roam and take challenges, because no one knew where he was thanks to the lack of intel because of those pests. Very rarely was it a steal a drone, go and sit in a dark corner in a room somewhere and sit on drones all around. It doesn't really work like that. But what you had in that previous round was Uno being in a spot where he caught the drone, was roaming on the top floor, managed to go and get himself hidden away somewhere, and then sat on the drone to give over Kanto that free kill. I feel bad for harping on him, but one of Kanto's only 3 kills from this game so far has come through an absolute freebie of that C4. Great bit of team play, but as we can all see, a freebie doesn't guarantee that the round turns into one, and it is 5-3.
Virtue just applying some utility into the admin office there, so obviously preparing for the FURIA push into the top floor, but I'm not sure that they're going to get it, Des, as the attention seems to come quickly towards Garage. It's been left soft. Lender, he's looking to lock down the yellow stairs there, and this could be a very quick push coming in from FURIA in towards that lower floor, and I'm not sure how ready G2 are for this. Fantasy's already getting himself down in towards that blue corridor, Des. He could well find himself with a freebie here if G2 don't realise that FURIA have pushed in this quickly.
Oh, Kayak sees that they were stepping up, and I think now that call would have come out. Oh my god, there's 2 in Cafe. We need to be careful, because here the Jaeger shouldn't be able to drop if he's playing above the hatch, which he should be. It's not even open. They can steamroll their way through blue. They're in. Oh, the mirror wins the gunfight, though. That should have been a freebie coming out, but it's a freebie for G2. They have somehow managed to bust this rush open, have turned things around. Lender is all alone, brings down Uno, but it's a 1 versus 3. For G2, I have no idea how they walked away with 4 kills there untraded. That looked for sure like FURIA were going to cakewalk that round.
Great play from G2 there. They reacted well, they were alert to the danger, and they got the kills that they needed to. FURIA, as you say, you've got to ask a few questions there. They got themselves into an unbelievable position very quickly. They had men established inside of the blue corridor. There was a few shots missed, I think we saw in and amongst the action there, where maybe a couple of kills could have gone in a different direction, but it's all ifs, buts and maybes. The fact is that G2 reacted well to the rush and managed to shut it down and find themselves back in touching distance. 4-5 on the scoreboard. One more round will pull them level here in round 10, and they're going back to Garage and Cafeteria once again, Des.
Oh, Kai probably looking at that Echo going over to Uno and saying, but why? It's mine! And Uno saying, no, this one's mine this time. That Maestro stepping in for him instead. We spoke a lot about this in the first half when FURIA were on the defense. The Maestro evilized that you want down in Garage. Normally 1 on pipes, 1 on the loading bay floor to be able to see through to the breach when it's opened up, as well as the default planting positions. Difference this time round, that Echo's on side. Keen to see where Uno's going to put those yokais down, whether they're used around the map as they were previously by Kayak, very aggressively inside of admin, or if instead they'll be placed inside of Garage, maybe rotated down lately. Heaven knows. And Rapidini says, this is our chance to win the 6th Invitational. My comrades from Brazil are playing out of their minds, and you are absolutely correct. So far, it has been a LATAM kind of day, except for Empire in game number 1, who taught Liquid a thing or two.
It has been a big day, but the thing that you've got to remember, let's not get carried away just yet.
It's only day.
All it takes is one team from another region to go absolutely huge, and nobody can necessarily stop them. So this is certainly all to play for. Yeah, I agree. There is a lot of excitement to be found inside of the LATAM teams and performances that we have seen so far, and they are looking hot. I'm sure that nobody's going to be looking forward to playing them at this point, but there is still a lot of siege to be played between now and that hammer being lifted.
An absolute ton of it, Tim. We've got 6 days of the kind of madness that today's got. We've got 15 matches today. Tomorrow, I believe, there is only 8, but either way you look at it, you've got about 70 matches or so throughout this week until we get into the playoffs next week. So still lots to look forward to. Let's talk about this round, though. We mentioned being on the downstairs here. Still G2 crawling around like ants in a nest, it feels like. There's none of them really looking to set up largely out towards Garage initially, and now going to rotate themselves back in from the east. They've got themselves down the stairs, down through Spiral, down through the east ones, and are now in a more commanding position. Same story for FURIA, though. They started out on the other side of the map, pushing into the west, suggesting that is the reason for G2's retreat back to the site.
Nearly halfway through the round then, Hayes is established inside of Piano there. Doesn't look to be too much of a challenge coming out. Miracle moving across the top floor, just looking to make sure once again that all the roamers are cleared out. Fancy applying some pressure to the yellow stairs there. We can see the defenders just dipping away, rushing their way back into sight. They do not want to be finding themselves on the wrong.
Not again.
Those bullets. Now, The ping does come out, but the stage is explosive proof, Des.
It is. I was wondering if there were any holes opened up in the floor above, which is often what we'll come to see. And they were looking to maybe toss a C4 up through the garage, I suppose, reinforced wall itself to see what they could catch, but not to be the case. Either way, that Mozzie drone, second time round, we've seen that being in such a precarious position for the attackers that it could really cause some damage if G2 get the setup right. In this case, not quite to be, but they'll at least know what the game plan is.
Kayak finds the first kill onto Fantasy, and things going well for G2 once again, but traded out by Miracle. 4 versus 4. We have a battle on the Visa stairs there. And
Citizen
doesn't come off too badly there. Manages to get himself the kill as well. Citizen with a huge double in the midst of all that action, and it's left to Rare. 1 versus 4 shut down on the garage breach by Uno. Nice and easy G2, and they tied things up 5-5. Des, is this the first 3 points coming for G2 here?
Or is it their second overtime?
I mean, you said it.
There are such things as caster curses, but some things just seem to be universal truths. And if you're saying to me that a G2 are going to take 2 rounds on the bounce here, yes, they've just done it. Not convinced they'll go on to have 4 rounds back-to-back. I think there's still Furia here going to 6 rounds, and I wouldn't be surprised to see G2 also get the 6 and send it into overtime. Either way, it again feels like another one of those games that deserves it, and if G2 can keep on bringing us overtime games that are exciting to watch, I'm not going to say no.
Absolutely not. I'll watch them, I was going to say all day long, I'll watch them all week long, I'll watch them all fortnight long, Des. You know, that's what we want to see. We want to see the excitement. We don't want to see teams getting steamrolled and sent home with their tail between the legs. We want to see it down to the wire every single time, because one thing it does do is it paints a picture of that rising tide that we've got inside of Siege, Des. This is not a 1, 2 or 3 team esport anymore. This is an esport where every single team in every single region can and will contest games when given the opportunity.
It's one of those games that introduces inconsistency as a big metric, I think, where some days you'll see a team have 3 players step up and absolutely frag their brains out. The next day, none of them turn up. And you're looking then the question too, well, who's going to step up and make the difference? We were saying exactly that about Alamau earlier on in his game, when he was 4 rounds in, sat down at 0-3, no impact in any of the rounds so far, and we thought, man, is this really the guy that everyone's been so hyped about? And then he does what he does in the final 4 to 6 rounds of the game. It's unbelievable. It's always going to come down to measured performance over time rather than just in one individual game in a big tournament like this, especially when there's 9 games potentially to be played. Admittedly, in this group, I think it's a little less. We're looking at 7 in this case.
Going to be defending up on the top floor this time around G2, and they've certainly looked a lot more comfortable on the defensive side than they did previously when attacking onto Consulate, and Lender's going to take a huge chunk of damage there, leaving him only 1 shot away from death, so he's going to have to play this round carefully, and he could have some important utility on his side as well with the Zephyr. They're going to look to use those explosive and concussive grenades to potentially clear out things like those Jaeger ADSs and just make sure that they are able to get the throwables in when they need to.
I was going to say if there was no Ash on the side, then yes, even more so. But the fact there's an Ash and there's a couple of frags doesn't mean it's the end of the world. But when you've got the breaches and the 4, the impacts and the concussions, as you mentioned, then yeah, absolutely a big deal if you're losing that too early on. So good thing that he's still with us, at least for now. It has been one of the quieter starts to a round because we're 75 seconds in, and outside of a few shots on Lender, no one's gone down, no one's gone hyper-aggressive. Watch me curse, in the next 5 seconds something goes off that's big.
It's just going to be an absolute flurry of kills come rolling in. But right now, as you said, as it seems like the battle lines are drawn and we are just waiting for that moment, that snap of the fingers that sends them both racing in towards each other. But with 1:30 left on the clock, I would expect it to be a little while before we see that just yet. We can see Rare getting his drone in there, just looking to move through. Looking primarily to pick up any players, but also no doubt calling out that utility and locations as well. And Lender is going to be supported by Miracle on the rappel there. Of course, Lender's going to be easy to take down, so they don't want to maybe put all their eggs in that basket. Citizen, he's still active in that mid-floor underneath Des. He's got a Nitro in hand and could be dangerous.
It's the right sort of plan coming out of Furia. They're trying to force G2 back from the west side of the map out towards the east. It's why they removed that shield and why they're now trying to smoke smoke out these lines, but Kanto has sprayed from this position a million times over. Smoke or not, he's going to spray the doorway and you might lose a member or two. In this case, it's Rare going down. And with that smoke being committed by the Thermite and him then being the one that dies, they don't have any smokes left to make this happen. They're going to have to kill the player inside of Connector, probably apply some pressure from the meeting balcony, of which currently there is no one playing, if they're going to net anything off this ace.
Absolutely, they are completely unable to clear out that Connector. Uno just moving back towards site on the flank, finds himself one. Kanto gets himself a second on the round. Citizen and Kanto finish things off, and as you say, lambs to the slaughter there as G2 pick up round 11. And Des, this could be G2 giving us the comeback that they suffered against on Chalet. They now have the opportunity to close this out in regulation time, but they'll only get one bite at this cherry.
This is the time to do it, I think, boys, fair to say. That round, much cleaner. We touched on the idea from FURIA was to try and force them away from playing on the front desk out to the west, get them out back through meeting, out of Connector, for example, and then go for a plant. Very, very common sort of setup. It's why you saw the big focus on burning through the ADSs, the magnets, whatever, and getting rid of the shield that was at the very end of long desk. Off the back of that, you thought surely they make the play here, they smoke out yellow or smoke out front desk, move their way through and go for the plant. It all came down to that brilliant spray from Connector from Kanto at the right time, caught out Rare. There were no smoke grenades left. The guy with the diffuser was down, and everything just kind of fell into disarray from there. So nice play from G2, holding their ground and being stubborn has paid off. They need to repeat that once again, though, here in round number 12, else overtime is on the cards. And I can only imagine how broken you'd feel if you lose again in overtime to a LATAM team.
That'll be a huge blow. I'm just looking across the updated stats that we have here, Des, for the game itself. Citizen now sitting on 15-5. He's top of the pops in terms of rating. He's got a 73% cost, and to be honest, he looks like the difference right now.
4 kills in this half.
He is the difference. The problem. That's the problem. He's not been getting as actively involved, but if we look across the side of FURIA, they don't have that standout individual. The closest in kills to Citizen was 4 behind him at the end of the last round, and I think it's just that edge that G2 are finding at the minute. And Uno has stepped up really well over the last few rounds as well.
Yeah, big round from him, or more like flank, I guess, in that last round coming up yellow stairs. Clearly, if you saw the reaction from the player that was playing on yellow, that they had no idea he was coming, because he just really spoiled their party a bit there, shut the attack down before it could even materialise. Let's see how this round plays out though. 30 seconds in. It's one of the more, I suppose, composed rounds. We said this in the last one, about 75 seconds in. No one was dead, barely a bullet had been fired except for Lender, but here it genuinely is much more composed.
Everybody just waiting for that moment for them to start pushing in. We've got G2 just happy to hold angles for the time being. Fancy's got himself established on the yellow stairs, learns his lesson and gets that Claymore down. This time he's not going to be flanked by Uno, but he's not attacking onto the top floor. For now, they just want to get control so that they can then work in towards that mid floor and start putting the pressure into Archives and Tellers itself.
It's all about the top floor control, of which there is one player still roaming out to the east. Believe it's Kanto. Of course it is. Who else is it going to be? Kind of locked himself in jail a little bit here with that laser gate, saying no, you cannot leave, except they didn't know that he's tunneled away out there inside a coffin down towards the south, so he can escape if needs be. But for here, it's about this contest coming into admin. I believe the reason for that laser gate is to consume, for example, an impact or a concussion or a frag grenade that might be getting thrown in. It's going to force the attackers to burn through 2 bits of utility just to remove these laser gates, and Highs taking the challenge, also coming out the worst in that one.
Kanto very important at the minute because he's just completely putting this clock on pause for FURIA. They are unable to move forward here, and the sand is running through the hourglass slowly but surely. It never stops, and right now it is ticking away from FURIA. They've got themselves established in a number of locations, but look, they still can't get into admin because they know that Kanto is locked in. As you say, that laser gate is not going to make it any easier for them to get to him now. Fantasy, he looks to make a challenge here. Kanto,
here we go.
No, he didn't dip away. He's been challenged from the other side here. Fantasy could make a push onto him.
No way.
Kanto still burns an awful lot of time. There's 35 seconds on the clock to go, and that is the opener. But Virtue, he's going to trade out Fantasy, and I think G2 have got themselves a big advantage here, Des.
They do, but they've got 1 C4 remaining. That could be the godly C4 they need as long as Uno doesn't find himself going down. Shotgun in hand, I imagine he wants to open a couple of holes in the floor to be ready for this execute when it comes in, because my God, is it got to happen. 15 seconds on the clock. They've got to go right now, Tim. They've got to go for the plan. Walls opened up, Plant going down from Rare. C4 in hand for Uno. Surely you look towards it. They come off to go for the fight. Uno, can he play spoiler? Has he got the C4 in hand? He does, but he places wrong. Goes for the wrong assumption on the default spot. Rare will be able to finish it off. We're going into overtime.
Again for G2, there is no break that they can catch today, Jez. They were so close to getting that in the bag. We thought that Kanto had done some great work for them up on the top floor. He burnt 2 minutes 25 up there, where FURIA were unable to get themselves established inside of the map. Virtue even traded his kill, and it left them 4 versus 4, but then FURIA, boy did they move quickly. It was a real blitzkrieg from that point in, just absolutely ran over the top of G2.
And so much so that G2 said we need a breather after that one. Hang on, wait a minute, give us a second. They're taking a little bit of a tactical timeout. You can see Shaz in the corner giving some words of wisdom. I remember asking a few coaches, you know, in these tactical timeouts, what happens in them? Why do you call them? And they say, you know, often it's that we'll stand back, we're happy for the players to sort things out, but if it feels like things are falling off kilter a little bit, the IGL hasn't quite got control of the situation, or maybe they've missed something really obvious, we're going to step in and offer something that we've observed or some words of wisdom. That's why he's the sole one talking right now. Resetting the guys, saying, look, we know what's going right, we know what's going wrong. Let's fix this up now, go at it again. It's a fresh best of 3. Forget the last few rounds. This may as well be a fresh series from here.
The problem is, Des, it's not just about forgetting this series, it's forgetting the fact that they've already been to overtime today. They've already been in that best of 3 situation, and Team 1 were able to just run away with it. They didn't even get around in overtime last time. It was a simple 2-round win, 1 defense, 1 attack for Team 1, closed out the game. And G2 right now have got a lot of pressure on top of them. You've got to remember, FURIA here are playing with little to no pressure, Des. If they come out with a win here, it's unexpected for them and it's a great start. If G2 come out with a loss here, they know that that's their opening 2 games burnt without a single point. So all the pressure sits on the shoulders of the Europeans right now.
Just to give you an idea how close the stats line up here, with us at 6-6, the rounds have been ridiculously close. The frags have been the same across rounds. 39 kills for G2, 38 for FURIA. It is neck and neck in terms of fragging capability as well as the scoreline. Here we go then with the reset. That Echo pick is being passed around like a parcel at Christmas between these boys. You've got the 3rd player now bringing it along. It's going to be Virtue, not Uno, not Kayak, it's Virtue.
Well, this is it. It feels like now or never for G2. They really need to get themselves a result here, or it is going to be some tough discussions tonight as they try to work out just exactly what happened in these first 2 games, allowing them to go all the way to overtime. And again, coming into this one, they started out pretty well. They looked good. They never really had themselves too much of an advantage. The first half was an even split 3-3, but then they got themselves that match point and were just unable to close it out, and we find themselves here now in overtime. So heading into round number 13 proper, we will be going to press and lobby, I think it is, to begin with.
I mean, that's a starting. Citizen with another entry kill. Man's having a little bit of a field day, and Lender's not comfortable enough to walk, well, not able to walk away with about 10 HP like he did last time round. He took an exchange in that position. It's a good start for G2. After a few rounds where it's been very quiet early on, that's a bit more explosive.
It's actually down in Garage this time around, so they're going to be looking to push down. As you say, that is a good start, taking the Zofia off the board. Might just leave Piano a little bit safer with those explosives. You've still got highs on the sledge, but it can be difficult as a 1-man crew to get in there and to start opening up those vertical angles. Kayak, he's able to use the Alder there, find a kill onto Miracle, and G2, they just look a little bit more decisive here, Des. They look a little bit more confident in going in and taking these gunfights.
In that bottom corner of your screen a second ago, bottom right corner, we saw the Yokai drone positioned in the back corner of Garage. Now, assuming, of course, Virtue stays alive long enough, that could be a big spoiler if a plant even gets the chance to come through. With the Thermite inside now, he can smoke himself out and go for a plant. It's not going to be the end of the world. And I think the default cam is still up outside. That's weird because a couple of rounds ago I thought, oh, FURIA are doing really well with default cams. They're double checking them when they walk through the room. They've missed a critical one on the outside of the map though.
It's giving G2 at least some of the information that they need there, and this is what happens, Des. You're in a stressful situation, you've got to overtime, and you've got to make sure that those basics are still getting done. You know, you've got to make sure that those default cams are getting closed out, because otherwise you've got a lot of information coming in to say, yep, they're heading into piano right now, they're heading into bathroom right now, and the pressure can mount.
Can indeed, but once this wall or the garage door is open, there's every opportunity to make things happen. They've got the vertical control, and look how far back the members of G2 are sat. They're all the way back in cafeteria for the most part, or inside of security. No one wanted to take the initial scrap. This is mainly because you've got Virtue wanting to play on the Yokais, I think. Citizen off on the roam. You can afford to take these liberties. I'm just slightly concerned that if they catch this Yokai out that's inside a garage, for example, they could get away with a nice fast plant here, and that might be exactly what they go for. But they need to know about that Yokai that's playing in behind them. Did it get shot out? Oh, the plan went down. No way they walked away with that. They had 2 Yokais in the garage, Tim.
They can't be allowing that to happen, Des. This has been part of the problem for G2 so far today. Haz gets himself a second on the round, and all of a sudden the man count is level. Now then, is there an opportunity to long arm it? Absolutely not, as the kills come in. Des, FURIA have just taken round 13. G2 are behind in overtime again.
Oh my God. That will be one of the rounds that Shaz whips out his notebook, adds to the long list of issues that have been going on today, and that one's getting a few asterisks next to it to review. There is no way you should be in a 3 versus 5, 2 Yokais alive, a roamer upstairs, 4 players downstairs. You let a plant get down, and you get swept without killing a single player on the other side. I'm flabbergasted at how that's even happened.
Cannot be allowed to happen, Des. Cannot be allowed to happen. As you say, that situation, 5 versus 3, you can't allow a plant going down when Echo is one of your remaining 5 as well, and there's Yokai active in the map. And the thing is, you can see what happens there. That is, and we say this for a reason, one of the hardest retakes in all of Siege. Trying to get in to the garage where a diffuser has been activated, and to clear it out and get the disable on it is so tough, because you can be challenged from that yellow stairs door, you can be challenged from range on the long driveway. It is so difficult for them as defenders to get back in there and do that, and so allowing that plant to go down, that is just a big mistake for G2. Now then, FURIA, they have an opportunity here, Des. 7-6. They could take themselves the opening win here at the 6 Invitational and surprise more than just 1 or 2, I think.
I will give some leeway. The first Yokai was destroyed, the one that was in the bottom corner of garage. That one was removed on their entry and when they went for the plant. Fine. That's why you saw the second one charging it halfway across the map to try and make the play happen. You still should not be losing with 5 men left alive like that. Again, going to be a big kicker for them. We get another go at the bat here, this time round G2 on the attack. They got this garage wall opened up incredibly quickly last time. That's not going to be the worry. Where I have worry is when the execute comes in, what are they going to find? They've got 3 frags remaining because 1 is used to remove the mutes on the other side of the garage door. Seen that so far all match long. Now it's thinking about the plant. It's thinking about the execute. And I'm looking at the gadget lineup on G2. No smokes. It's flashbangs being brought along by the Thermite. No doubt a conscious decision because he's had the smokes on side earlier on. I'm wondering what the game plan is here because there's nothing to cover them when they try and go for this execute.
Right, 45 seconds, Des, and the double breach has been achieved on the garage door. That is rapid work from G2. They are giving themselves every opportunity to win this. We want to see them come back into this. We want to see them make a real challenge here in overtime. Kayak very aware of the windows there. Out comes the Nitro, will be unsuccessful. We've seen FURIA try that a couple of times now and they've not had any joy from it, and this time G2 more than aware and waiting for it, so back themselves off, keep themselves a nice distance away outside of the throwing arc of the Nitro there and just away from danger. Now Citizen, he's out in the map and looking to just make a nuisance of himself on the Iana.
And making a nuisance of yourself on the Iana, not an impossibility. Looking at this spot, you still got the 2 frags on side. Of course, the Gemini stepping in, that Gon 6, very useful for getting rid of gadgets. Or I think as we saw previously in Uno's case, being used to contest someone going for the plant when they were up against Rogue, I believe it was. It was Corey who whipped out the Gon 6 as he was out of ammo in his primary, but here's the hot drop coming out from Uno. Good to find the kill, but is instantly traded out.
It was very, very nice from Uno to get that kill, as you say. Now then, 4 versus 3, and G2 have got themselves established inside of Archives here. Citizen gets a kill onto Highs. Rare will trade that back out, 2 versus 3, but 55 seconds left to go on Furia. They've got a lot of work to do here. Miracle still has 2 Toxic Babes in pocket, does not want to die without using those to waste some time. Rare, he's looking to push his way back down the yellow stairs. He knows the push is coming from Archives. Nowadays, what's going on? They're not aware of the man on the yellow stairs, but Kayak, he reacts fantastically well, gets himself into a position to find the angle onto Rare, shuts down the round. We're going all the way to 15, Des.
That was such a flurry. There were more, it's like they were trading kills in that game like they were Pokemon cards. Back and forth, one after the other. One guy gets a kill, turns to another angle, loses the gunfight. It was insanity, but still won. Like you say, the Furia come out on top, the G2 come out on top of and send us into round 15. They are going to be absolutely knackered at the end of today. 2 games against LATAM teams that go through to overtime that you would wager at one point during regulation, G2 were in the commanding position. For this game in particular, it's when Citizen was marching ahead, but as things have played out, it's become more even, and now we step in round number 15, downstairs into Garage and Cafeteria again. All 3 sites in overtime being played down here.
G2 certainly confident then that they can overturn the situation that happened back in round 13, where of course they were racing a Yokai drone across the basement level to try and get it into position in time to deny the plant, and were unsuccessful. Fury are able to get that briefcase down and activated, and then successfully prevent G2 from retaking the site. So this time there's no echo on the cards, Des. G2, they've been that off. They're moving towards a different strategy here. We've got the Goyo shields, and we've got Maestro, of course, with those Evil Eye cameras that could also potentially prevent a diffuser from going down on the ground. We'd usually see one round down on the ground beside the white truck there. If you're wondering exactly why that's happening, it's because you can get a nice line of sight actually underneath that truck. Makes it very difficult to actually take out for the attackers, and means that you can challenge onto any potential plant.
Small change they've made as well is that normally one would be on pipes, but here it's on the column instead, and there is one indeed on the low ground as well. So small variations, nothing massive to write home about, but can have a big impact. Keeping a very close eye as well, by the way, on Uno playing on this smoke. He could have a pretty profound impact if that clock starts running down to 0, but given the pace at which these garage attacks have been executed so far, I'm probably looking at this one and thinking that may not have the stellar impact that you're looking for, although alternatively the C4s may, and Citizen I think has used his somewhere more defensively to maybe create a rotate, or is it pre-placed?
This is it now, Des. We are going to find out exactly how this match is going to wind up. 2 minutes left to go. We're in round 15, and winner takes all. It's as simple as that. Come away from this round with the win, and you take all the marbles. You take 3 points, and you slap them right on the table and push yourself up towards the top of Group A. Now then, we've got Fantasy. He's just led prone at the minute inside of towers, almost certainly on his drone, just trying to find these G2 defenders. Virtue's
the rush.
A lot of damage now. We've got 3 G2 defenders just returning very quickly to site there from above, so that leaves all 5.
Got my pants for a second there thinking that was an attacker rush, and I was like, oh, what's going on?
We've got all 5 defenders inside of site. You give me a heart attack, Des. I was like, what? No, Des, they're orange, it's fine.
If I see 3 operators rushing down a stairway, I'm thinking, God, there must be a rush going on here. A bit ahead of myself for sure. However, that will be the second and final C4 coming out from G2. The first one was burnt earlier on in Visa. Citizen getting the opening kill onto Miracle, traded back out by a Claymore of all things, Ace.
This could go absolutely anywhere, Des. It's 4 versus 4. I really thought G2 had come in and given themselves a big advantage with that early opener from Citizen, but absolutely not. Furia, they tie things up 4-4. Kanto up on the top floor could be important, Des. There's a lot of destructible floors here on Consulate. You can even defend the site in Garage from 2 floors away, right up in that console office, but Kanto, he decides to start moving his way down. He's looking to pressure onto Piano and then potentially the rest of Yellow Stairs. I don't think FURIA are aware, Des. This could be extremely dangerous if they don't locate the man, and that is one kill for Kanto, but
Trade
shut down
again.
by Fantasy. It's a trade again. 3 versus 3, 25 seconds, Des.
Oh my word, the smokes are coming out. It's going to be go time now. It's a triple for Fantasy. 3 versus 2, and G2 about to take their second loss of the day. The plan has got to happen now. They've got no smokes left. They've got to go for the gunfights. Lender wins 1. It's a 3 versus 1. Virtue, he can't do anything. G2, more like G0 and 2, as the LATAM team hand them some incredible defeats on day 1.